they knocked on the door and told me that it was a bullet hole in my window.
A traumatizing Monday morning. Linda Sales says she looked outside of her Springfield Township apartment to see police officers and crime tape, then realized someone shot and killed her neighbor, Lacresha Black, just feet from her door, and one of those bullets hit her back window.
I give you this ring.
I give you this ring.
Wear it with love and joy.
Wear it with love and joy.
I choose you to be my partner.
I choose you to be my partner.
To have and to hold.
To have and to hold.
From this day forward.
From this day forward.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse.
Lacresha Black, born on August 31st, 1991, in Cincinnati, Ohio, was a woman whose warmth and compassion left a lasting impact on everyone she met. Known for her infectious humor, kindness, and unshakable resilience, Lacresha built strong, meaningful relationships with those around her. Whether it was her family, her friends, or her colleagues, she was someone who could always be counted on. Despite the fact that details of her early life remained private, one thing was crystal clear: Lacresha was deeply loved. She was dependable, hardworking, and had an unmatched ability to connect with people. Her presence could light up a room, and her unwavering support made others feel seen and appreciated. Lacresha didn't just pass through life. She made every moment count, leaving behind a trail of love and care that others would carry with them forever. In 2017, Lacresha took on a job at a local airport. Here, her natural charm and enthusiasm made her a favorite among passengers and colleagues alike. Her ability to make others feel welcome was one of her greatest gifts, and it was no surprise that she became known for her warm personality. But Lacresha was not just about making others feel good in the moment. She was also someone who always looked to the future, excited by the endless possibilities life had to offer. She was a woman who seized every opportunity, who knew that life was full of twists and turns, and embraced each one with open arms. Her passion for life was contagious, inspiring those around her to dream big, to take risks, and to make the most of their own journeys. Lacresha Black was more than just a name. She was a force of positivity in the lives of so many. And though her life was tragically cut short, her legacy continues to live on in the hearts of everyone who knew her. In 2019, Lacresha's life took a dramatic turn. She met Teria Denise Brown, a 42-year-old woman whose past was anything but simple. Teria, a mother of 3 children, had already lived a life full of highs and lows, which shaped the woman she had become. On the surface, she appeared stable, mature, and calm, a stark contrast to the free-spirited, yet resilient Lacresha. At first glance, Teria seemed like someone with the experience and wisdom Lacresha had been searching for. Lacresha was immediately drawn to her, captivated by Teria's composed and nurturing nature. Teria had been through much in her life, rising above the challenges, and Lacresha admired that strength. For Lacresha, this was more than just a connection. It was a sign that perhaps she'd found someone who could stand by her side, someone who understood the complexities of life. The relationship quickly blossomed. With each passing day, Lacresha grew closer to Teria. She admired Teria's life experience, how she juggled the responsibilities of motherhood with grace. There was something undeniably magnetic about her, a calmness that balanced Lacresha's energetic and outgoing nature. Soon, Lacresha found herself embracing Teria's children as her own, forming a bond with them that went beyond mere friendship. It wasn't just about the love between Lacresha and Teria, it was about the family they were building together. Lacresha's connection with Teria's children grew just as strong. They formed lasting bonds with her, and in turn, Lacresha felt a sense of fulfillment as she became part of their lives. It was not always easy blending families, but Lacresha embraced it with open arms. She found joy in the simple moments, sharing family dinners, attending school plays, and watching Teria's children grow. Her heart swelled with love as she watched her own relationship with them deepen. Together, they built a life that seemed full of promise and love. As their relationship continued to grow, Lacresha and Teria celebrated many moments of joy together. They spent weekends exploring new places, quiet nights in, and days spent with family. But it was in December 2023 that their bond reached its pinnacle. After nearly 4 years of being together, Lacresha and Teria made the decision to marry, sealing their love with a commitment that they believed would last a lifetime. On December 3, 2023, Lacresha and Teria officially tied the knot. They celebrated their love with matching tattoos, forever marking their commitment to each other. The tattoos read, "Till death do us part," a promise that seemed unbreakable. It was a moment of pure happiness, a day to be remembered forever. Family and friends gathered to witness this beautiful union, and the love between Lacresha and Teria appeared to be as strong as ever. For a brief moment, everything seemed perfect. The honeymoon phase was alive and well, with love and laughter echoing in every corner of their lives. But as time passed, cracks in their perfect love story began to emerge, subtle at first, but growing more pronounced with each passing day. Behind the smile-filled photos and the happy social media posts, there was turmoil. Their relationship, despite its outward appearance, was marred by frequent arguments. Tensions began to mount as small disagreements evolved into heated exchanges. The constant back and forth between love and conflict created a rift neither of them could ignore. Breakups became common, but so did reconciliations. Their love story, once marked by moments of deep affection, now danced between intense disputes and fleeting reconciliations. They both fought to make the relationship work, each believing that the love they shared was worth saving. But with every fight, with every tear shed, the distance between them grew. They couldn't seem to break the cycle. As time wore on, Lacresha found herself questioning the future of their relationship. The emotional strain weighed heavily on her, and the woman who had once felt so sure of her love now found herself doubting whether it could survive. Despite the connection they shared, the constant emotional upheaval began to take its toll. She no longer recognized the relationship that had once felt so secure. Though Lacresha tried to hold on, the challenges continued to grow. In the end, love was not enough to overcome the deep cracks that had formed between them. What started as a beautiful union had become a battleground, and the day would come when Lacresha made the hardest decision of her life. After 5 years of emotional turmoil, Lacresha made the difficult decision to end her relationship with Teria. The constant arguments, the cycles of love and pain, had worn her down. What once seemed like a fairy tale had become a nightmare, and Lacresha knew that it was time to move on. Lacresha had hoped for a fresh start, a chance to live a life free from the constant strain that had come to define her relationship with Teria. But she knew that leaving wouldn't be easy. It was a decision that tore her apart, knowing the pain it would cause, not just to Teria, but to herself as well. Teria, however, couldn't accept Lacresha's decision. She had become consumed by anger, her love for Lacresha twisted into an overwhelming need to hold on, no matter the cost. As Lacresha prepared to leave, Teria's desperation grew, and with it, a simmering rage that was about to boil over. The realization that she was losing control over Lacresha and her own life was something Teria could not bear. Her mind raced with thoughts of betrayal and rejection, fueling a dangerous resolve to stop Lacresha from walking away. On November 18, 2023, Teria arrived at Lacresha's home. The day started like any other, but for Lacresha, it would be the moment her life changed forever. In the heat of the moment, words were exchanged, but they were drowned out by the intensity of what came next. Despite the brief exchange of words, a confrontation like no other unfolded. The anger, the fear, and the pain that had been building up between them finally erupted. In a single, devastating moment, Teria pulled out a gun and shot Lacresha in the head, ending her life in an instant. It happened so fast. Lacresha, full of life and love, fell to the ground in an instant. Her dreams, her future, everything she had worked for was taken away. And Teria, standing over her, realized too late the full weight of her actions. The sound of the gunshots shattered the peaceful morning. Neighbors, horrified by what they had just witnessed, rushed to their windows, unable to process what had just occurred. The quiet suburban neighborhood was now a crime scene, and Lacresha's life was gone, leaving nothing but devastation. As the police arrived, the chaos that followed could only be described as a nightmare come to life. Lacresha's family, friends, and the community she had so deeply touched were left grappling with the unthinkable. The woman who had given so much to others, who had shared love and warmth, was now gone. The tragedy of that day would forever alter the lives of those who knew Lacresha, and the question that remained was, what drove Teria to such an irreversible act? The devastating truth was just beginning to unravel. As the sound of sirens filled the once peaceful streets of Springfield Township, police and paramedics arrived at the scene, their faces grim as they assessed the situation. Lacresha, her life stolen in an instant, lay motionless on her porch. Despite the best efforts of the paramedics, it was clear there was nothing more to be done. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Her death sent shockwaves through the community, an event that no one could have predicted and no one was prepared for. The once lively and full of promise Lacresha was now a tragic memory, but questions immediately began to surface. With no clear motive at first, the investigation was shrouded in uncertainty. The police were left with more questions than answers. Who could do such a thing to a woman so beloved by everyone who knew her? What had happened in the moments leading up to her death? At first, it was unclear what had caused this senseless act of violence. The neighbors, shaken by the horror unfolding before their eyes, could hardly believe it.
Lucky that I was sleeping, that I was in the back. I'm so thankful that my grandkids weren't here because that's the area where they play, eat, and spend their time.
Minutes earlier,
911, do you have an emergency?
Yes, someone's dead.
a 911 call from a man who was with Black.
Who is this person to you? A friend?
She's like a caretaker to me.
At the time, the man who called wasn't sure who shot her.
Okay, do you know of her? Like, have you seen her before, or was she just a
Yes.
stranger?
I saw her a couple times.
And as investigators sifted through the evidence, one name kept coming up in their conversations: Teria Brown. Suspicions soon began to fall on Teria. Those who knew the couple whispered about the constant tension in their relationship. Friends and family members revealed the pattern of arguments, the breakups and reconciliations, and the emotional volatility that had marked their time together. It became clear there was more to this story than anyone had realized. Everyone who knew Lacresha struggled to understand how something so tragic could happen in their community. Neighbors described the area as peaceful, a place where families raised their children and shared good times. To them, this act of violence seemed almost impossible. After the tragic shooting, Teria Brown fled the scene in her dark-colored 2014 Chevrolet Cruze. The car, now a key piece of evidence, quickly became a symbol of the danger that was on the loose. Teria had just taken the life of someone she once loved, and with her heart full of rage and fear, she set off on a desperate flight. Almost immediately, a statewide manhunt was launched. Police forces from all across the state scrambled to locate Teria. Authorities were deeply concerned, knowing that she had just committed a horrific crime, and with her unpredictable behavior, no one could predict what she might do next. As Teria sped away from the crime scene, her mind raced. Fear, guilt, and anger mingled as she desperately sought to escape the consequences of her actions. She knew the police were hot on her trail, but there was no turning back now. 2 hours later, the chase took a dangerous turn. Teria's vehicle was spotted by Indiana State Police in Clinton County, Indiana. It seemed like there was no escaping the consequences of her actions. But Teria, consumed by fear and defiance, refused to pull over. As Teria's car weaved dangerously through traffic, the police pursued, their sirens cutting through the night air. The chase grew more intense with each passing moment, and it was clear that Teria would not give up easily. The situation had become volatile. Teria was armed, unpredictable, and willing to do anything to escape. Just when it seemed like there was no way out, Teria finally pulled off the highway, bringing her car to a stop at a gas station. But the situation was far from over. This was not a surrender. It was the calm before the storm. Indiana State Police surrounded the gas station, their weapons raised, hoping for a peaceful resolution. But Teria, still inside her vehicle, made it clear that she was not going to go down without a fight. In a split second, Teria fired a shot from inside her car. The sound of the gunshot shattered the tense silence, and without hesitation, officers returned fire. The situation escalated in an instant. What had started as a chase for a suspect was now a dangerous confrontation. After the chaos of gunfire, the tension finally began to subside. Officers approached the vehicle cautiously, but the scene they found inside confirmed their worst fears. Teria Brown, the woman who had taken Lacresha's life, was found dead in her car. The confrontation had ended in tragedy. The gunshot fired from inside her vehicle had led to a deadly conclusion. Teria's life was now over, and the cycle of violence was complete. In the span of just a few hours, 2 lives were lost, one by a senseless act of violence, and the other by a desperate attempt to flee the consequences of her actions. The manhunt for Teria Brown ended in a fatal confrontation, but the devastation it left behind was only beginning to settle. The loss of Lacresha Black was a devastating blow to her family, friends, and everyone who knew her. The woman who had been the heart of so many lives, full of love, laughter, and warmth, was gone in an instant. Her family was left to pick up the pieces, to make sense of a tragedy that none of them could have foreseen. Lacresha's parents were devastated. Her mother, who had watched her daughter grow into the caring, vibrant woman she became, could hardly process the pain. Her father, who had always been so proud of her, was left in silence, searching for the right words to explain the unexplainable. Teria's daughter, Mumu, was also left to face an overwhelming reality. In the midst of her grief, she turned to social media, defending her mother, trying to make sense of the events that led to such a tragic end. Mumu, torn between love for her mother and the heartbreaking truth of the situation, shared her pain with the world, asking for understanding and space to grieve. On social media, Mumu's post drew both compassion and criticism. The world, divided by the tragic nature of what happened, watched as a daughter struggled to defend her mother while still mourning the loss of a woman she once loved. No one knew how to process the grief, whether for Lacresha or for Teria. The lines between victim and perpetrator blurred in the eyes of the public. As November 30th, 2024 approached, both families began to prepare for the funeral services. 2 lives, each tragically cut short, were to be honored. Lacresha's family, joined by those who loved her, prepared to say their final goodbyes to a woman whose life had been full of promise. Teria's family, too, came together in grief, though their mourning was clouded by the tragic actions that led to this moment. The funeral services became a poignant moment of reflection for both families, who, despite the pain, shared the space of mourning. 2 families, once intertwined in love, now shared a tragic bond, both devastated by the loss of their loved ones. The 2 families, once bound by love and shared experiences, now came together in the face of grief. The bond between Lacresha and Teria, once full of promise, had ended in unimaginable loss. The events of November 18th, 2023, left a lasting scar on everyone involved: family, friends, and the community of Springfield Township. And as the families began to lay their loved ones to rest, the question of why would continue to haunt them for years to come. The story of Lacresha and Teria is one that ends in heartbreak, a devastating reminder of how quickly love can turn into something dark and dangerous. What began as a bond between 2 people, full of promise and connection, spiraled into a tragedy that forever changed the lives of those involved. Behind the smiles and the shared moments, a toxic cycle of emotional distress brewed for years. What once seemed like a relationship full of love, trust, and hope eventually revealed itself to be a storm of pain and betrayal. The constant arguments, the breakups, the cycles of reconciliation, each one built on the fragile foundation of unresolved issues and unaddressed trauma. Lacresha, a woman known for her kindness, compassion, and resilience, was tragically taken from this world, her life cut short by the very person she once loved. Teria, too, was left to grapple with the consequences of her actions, her life forever marked by the irreversible decision she made that morning. For both of them, The storm of emotions that tore apart their relationship ultimately led to a deadly conclusion. Their story serves as a harsh reminder of the dangers of staying in toxic relationships. The emotional toll of unresolved conflict can build up over time, eventually reaching a point where even the deepest love can turn into something destructive. This tragedy highlights the importance of recognizing when a relationship is no longer healthy and the need to seek help before it's too late. Too often, people stay in toxic relationships, hoping for change, believing that love will overcome all.